Hello, my little tag-alongs. Welcome back to Give Me a Holler. I'm your host, Canadian Dave, and today what we're going to be talking about is communication while we're traveling. Now, I know that in the world of cell phones, a lot of us take communication for granted because, let's face it, there's cell towers just about everywhere. And, if there's not, you can probably wait for a little while until you have signal. But if you're traveling in a caravan, for instance, snowbirds who are going to be taking their RVs from the cold north down to the south, you might travel along in a group of 5 or 10 people. Or if it's something like Poverty Tour, what we did there was probably 70 cars, and a good number of them had CBs set up in them, and that was a really good way of communication. So we're going to go back in time a little bit in terms of technology. We're going to talk about CB radios. Now, CB radios are cheap these days. You can pick up a CB and an antenna, and you're out less than $100. Like they're cheap. The problem is they're a little bit of an older technology. They do require a little bit of finessing and finagling. One of the limiting factors about a CB is how much power they put out. Now, the FCC, they've capped that at 4 watts, so not a lot. I mean, you could modify, you could put on a boot and try to increase the amount of power coming out of it. But if you're just using a regular stock unit, it's going to be 4 watts. So as a result, when it comes to CB radios, it doesn't really matter in terms of the radio itself. It's not going to be like, oh, if you get this brand, it's going to be that much more powerful, or that brand. It's a limiting factor when you're buying the radio as to what type it is. As long as it functions, it should be okay. So then it's down to the next factors. If you're going to only have 4 watts, you're going to try to maximize that. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is match your antenna length to the radio. Now, what does that mean? The radio was, when you key the mic and power runs down out through the back of the radio, it's going to run into the cable, and that's going to have some resistance to it. And it's also it's going to run into the antenna, and there's going to be a little bit of resistance there as well. So what will happen when there's resistance is that power that you're trying to push out will actually reflect back at the radio, and usually what that does is it causes heat. So the finals in your radio might warm up, and it could cause degradation of those finals. In newer radios, it'll actually reduce the amount of power going out. So you'll no longer be transmitting at 4 watts because the radio understands that, hey, we've got all of this resistance, let's drop it down a little bit. So that's really counterproductive.
So in the case of my CB, I don't actually have a built-in standing wave ratio meter. So I have an external one. So I connect my CB by a short patch cable to the meter, and it's going to measure the standing wave ratio so I can determine how much of the power going out is being reflected back.
So what are we going to need for this process? Well, we're going to connect the CB to our SWR meter. What the heck happened to this thing? Piece of junk. Okay, and we're going to need to take this apart. Should be easy enough. Undo that screw, pull it apart, put this back in the window. Let's give that a shot. You're going to need to bear with me. This channel is not toss a coin to your tech guy. I am not a tech guy. I'm sure you should be thanking me, though, because if this was toss a coin to your tech guy, John would be giving you equations, and you'd have to have your scientific calculator in order to follow along. When I watch that show, I swear to God, sometimes I feel like it's, remember Peanuts, the cartoon with Charlie Brown, when the teacher spoke, it'd be wah, 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 wah. That is sometimes how I feel when John speaks. I mean, it's not that what he says is confusing. Sometimes it's just a little bit beyond my capability. I think we need some glue. Glue this in place, or possibly some Gorilla Tape. Let me see if I can find some glue.
Okay, no glue. But I have Scotch tape. That's approved for electrical work, right? So we'll give that a shot. Hopefully it will work. One piece of Scotch tape. Two pieces of Scotch tape. I wonder if I can get a third piece down in here somewhere. If I put it here and go over the edge. There we go. We'll just be gentle with it. That's good enough for the girls I run with. Okay, let's put this sucker back together. Is it supposed to keep spinning? Is it optional that it eventually catches? Good enough. There you go. That works. How do you like me now, John? Let's talk about signal for a moment. How does the antenna work? Do you hit the mic button, signal goes down the wire, and then goes up here like this, and then shoots out the top like that? No, that's not actually how the antenna for a CB works. It's more like a donut. If you imagine this is your car, this is you driving happily down the road, and you have a CB, and the antenna on top sends a signal out from there. So it basically comes out in all directions. It's going out in all directions around the car. And the benefit of that is if you're going down a highway and the highway turns to the right, for instance, the signal isn't only going directionally this way, it's actually going this way and this way and this way, all directions all at the same time. What's a better way to illustrate how the directions go? Give me a second. There, that's a little better. So the toothpicks are representing the direction that the signals are going. They're just like, it's like a porcupine. They're just going out in all directions, which is great. However, there are some signals that are being wasted. These ones here, the ones shooting down at the car, those are wasted because there's nobody underneath you. You're trying to contact people in front of you, behind you, to the left, to the right, etc., but not below you. So what you really want to do is find some way to make those signals work for you. So what you do is you make sure that if it's a magnetic mount, in the case of the one that I was using, you're basically going to make sure that the roof that it's on is made of steel. And then you squish those down. Now those signals are going out left, right, etc. They're not going down. They're not being wasted. And we refer to this as a ground plane. So the signal basically is going to skip along the roof like this, and then it's going to go straight out. Now, as I mentioned before, the signal is line of sight. So you want it to be on the highest portion of the car. If you have your antenna sitting on your trunk back here, let me just move the car forward so you can see it. If you have it sitting back here, some of those signals are actually going to go down to the ground and do nothing for you. So you want to make sure that it's far enough forward on your trunk so that you're making use of that ground plane. So you don't want it to be at the very edge of the trunk. The same as if you have an SUV, you don't want to have your antenna be here at the very end, because once again, those signals are just dripping down and doing nothing for you. You want to have it as close to the middle of that piece of metal as possible so that you can take advantage of the full effect of that ground plane. So the next thing to consider here is, placement as well. Now you want to have it as high as possible on the vehicle. Again, if it were sitting on the trunk, you'd probably have great signal out the back. People behind you for miles will be able to talk to you. But the signal going forward is actually blocked a little bit by the car, and it's also blocked a little bit by any passengers or anything that's inside the car. So it's blocking the signal from going forward. Even a heavy rain can block the signal. So I'm not suggesting that you drive only when it's not raining. I'm just illustrating that the smallest thing can act to block those signals. So you're going to want to have the antenna, if possible, on the roof. Put it at the highest point. Make sure it's dead center. Flatten out those signals that are on the bottom. Utilize that ground plane. Now, there are antennas that are designed to work without a ground plane. Those are especially useful in something like an RV, for instance, where the roof is not made of steel, or possibly a Corvette. But what fool would buy a Corvette? I mean, really, they're garbage. So if you're gonna do something like that, you would want to have you could have your antenna sit at the back of your car. If you have one of those ones where there's no ground plane, it's a specific type of antenna though. You could put it anywhere. You could put it on the hitch if you wanted to, but remember, you want it to get up as high as possible so you can see how that looks back there. So as opposed to up here, much better. Here, even better. On a Corvette, it's hard to say. I mean, you're not sure where you would attach it. Possibly somewhere near the T-tops, if there's a way to get a bracket in there. There are brackets that are sold which are shaped basically like have an L shape to them. So the bracket goes like this, and like that. You screw the antenna up here. In the bottom part here, you find a bolt. Like, for instance, if you lift the hood of your car and there's a bolt that attaches your fender to the car, you could just remove that bolt and then bolt the bracket there. The hood would come here like so, and then the fender is over here like so. So you have to make sure that there's enough clearance for that little bracket to get up between the hood and the fender, but you could put it on the front of the car, or if you have a trunk, I guess the rear of the car, but you'd probably need to drill a hole into that metal. Again, it's a specific type of antenna that doesn't require a ground plane, so keep that in mind when you're purchasing.
So one of the first things we're going to need is an antenna. Now, in this case, this is a magnetic mount antenna, and it has a little rubber pad on it here that'll stop you from scratching the paint on the vehicle. And this magnet, it's actually very important to have it make good contact with your steel roof. It actually is part of the grounding for this sort of antenna. If you have one of the types that's not magnetic, where it actually attaches to the car with a nut and a bolt, those ones will make a ground. And what you should do in that situation is sand a little bit of the paint off so that where the nut and bolt touch, you have a good solid ground. Now in this case, you just screw the antenna into the base. There we go, nice and tight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it dead center on the roof of the car. I'm going to make sure that where it attaches to the car, that the paint, that the roof is relatively debris free, and not put it on top of rust, because you want to have a really good connection to this base, because you need this magnetic mount to have a good solid connection with the steel, because that's part of the grounding for this magnetic antenna. So for the purposes of this test, you can see I have my Cobra 19 CB. This does not have a built-in SWR meter. So as I've shown you before, I have my external SWR meter. So before I do anything, I'm going to have to connect this. So the cable that runs to the antenna goes into the side that says antenna. You have to make sure that you get it good and seated well. If it's not all the way in, you're not going to have a very good result for your test. And it comes with this little patch cable here, so I'm going to put that in and tighten that. There we go. And like a fool, I just pushed this with my finger and knocked it in. You may recall I expertly repaired this by taping it together, and now it's broken again. So I guess I'll have to put some tape on it or something at some point. So the other end of this cable is going to go into the CB. And here's the tip: don't key your CB unless you have an antenna attached or a load. Apparently it's not good for the CB, so there's that. So here we have it. It's on channel 19, and looks like it's working. I'm going to turn the volume all the way down because we don't need to hear the trucks going, the people in the trucks talking. Not for this anyway. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to channel. I'm going to change it to channel 1. There we are on channel 1. Now you'll notice when I keyed the mic, you can see there's a signal strength meter here that goes up. There, it's off. Key the mic. You can see it's there. So that shows that it's actually working. Okay, so we have the SWR meter connected to the CB, and now what we're going to do is we're going to do an initial test. So we're going to start off with this dialed all the way down. This button here is set to the FWD, or set. This is the signal going forward out of the CB. And when I key the mic, we might see a slight change in this needle. Let's see if it goes up at all. Keying the mic, almost nothing. Okay, so let's move this up a bit higher. A little bit more. A little bit more. Almost to the top. A little bit more. And a touch more. Okay, so I would say that that's at the very top of the meter. So let's take a look here. Oh, even better. It's just like 1.1 maybe. Okay, so I'm going to change the channel on the CB, put it on channel 40. And you can see that it's much higher on channel 40. It's almost at 2. It's probably like a 1.9, something like that. And that likely means that the antenna is too long. So you might be wondering, how do we interpret these results? Well, if the number is higher on channel 40, you need to shorten the length of the antenna. If it's higher on channel 1, you need to lengthen the antenna. So in our case, you may have recalled that here's the set screw, and I had set it so that it was just a little bit up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten it by putting in my key, turning it, slide the antenna down. I was able to slide it down by maybe 1/8 of an inch. And now I'm going to tighten it. Okay, and remember to take the key out because even this can affect your SWR readings. One of the things you'll note is that I'm in an open area. There's nothing blocking the, there's nothing to interfere with the antenna. And when I do it, I make sure that my windows are closed and that I'm inside. So I'm going to go back inside the car and I'm going to test it again. Okay, so I'm back inside the car again. And as you can see, the meter is at 0 because I haven't keyed the mic yet. And right now I have it set to reflect. So I'm going to push it to forward or set. And I'm going to key the mic, and hopefully when I key it, it will go to the top of the power scale. Let's see. There you go. So you can see that it went all the way to the top. So now I'm going to put it back on reflect, and I'm going to key the mic again. We're going to pay attention to see how low it sits on this side here. And that's pretty good. I would say that's about maybe a 1.2 on that scale. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change it around a bit, and we're going to go on to channel 40 and see how it sits there. Now that was the area where it was a little bit high before. We'll see if we can't get it to come down a little bit lower. So okay, so we're on channel 40. I'm going to put this back down again. I'm going to check on our SWR, and we're going to key the mic. First, we got to put it on set, and then we're going to key the mic. And as you can see, it went right to the top, which is what we want. So now put it on reflect, and then we're going to key the mic again, and we'll see if it's any lower. I would say that's about 1.6 or 7. Probably a 1.6.
Hope you guys are enjoying the never-ending CB video. But I had another thing I was going to mention, and that is handheld radios. Some of people on the Facebook page for Poverty Tour have mentioned the idea of using walkie-talkies or basically handheld CB radios. So if you're just in a group that's fairly close together, you can use walkie-talkies that they'll work for relatively short distance. If you're basically nose to tail in your group, yep, walkie-talkies are fine. When it comes to the handheld CB radios, the problem with those is, first of all, they're designed for you to be out in the open, walking around, not for you to be inside of a vehicle surrounded with metal and whatnot. So, first, short antennas. Those little antennas, they're not great for reaching out very far in terms of connecting with the other people who are in the group. There are some where they have the option to connect your handheld to an external antenna. That's fine. That would work actually quite well. Then you don't have to worry about mounting it in your car or anything like that. Some of them have an attachment so you can connect it directly to your cigarette lighter, so you're not working off of a battery that's constantly discharging itself. So that would be a good option. You get one where it connects to your car battery and it also connects to an external antenna, and that would be fine because they run at 4 watts as well, so they're really no different than the CB that's mounted in your vehicle. What's going on, Dobby? Why are you pushing me with your nose? So yeah, that would be an okay option. But if you just are using a handheld running it off of it being, charged, and has the stubby antenna, you're not going to be able to reach out very far. There was one of the people who was on the Poverty Tour from 2025 who had one of those, and very quickly went out and found a CB. I think they stopped at a truck stop or something like that and grabbed a CB with an external antenna, because the distance that it would transmit was just too short. So something to consider. Can it work? Yes. Does it work well? No. Anyway, so that's all I have for that. Not sure if there's anything else I was going to cover, but you know what, this video's been long enough anyway. So I'm going to wrap it up, and now it's time to edit it. The worst part of making these YouTube videos is the editing. It's very time consuming. Anyway, I'll talk to you later, and thanks for coming along on this little ride. Have a great day. I realize this video is taking a bit of time. I'm trying to do it right. Some of you, good attention spans. Others, like Chad from Whiskey Gas Garage, I know he has ADHD. And he probably has a couple other consonants wrong with him as well. But, maybe something will spark his attention. Maybe we'll get something that, will just glue him to the spot. What do you got there for me? Look at that. See that, Chad? Something shiny. I got your attention now. All right, now pay attention. And take the key out of your ear. Just wish that I had something for the dogs, a treat of some description. But all I've got is chocolate. Dogs like chocolate. Come here. You want some chocolate? Here you go, buddy. Here's some chocolate. Do you want chocolate too? Good boy. Oh, chocolate's so yummy. Okay, back to the show. Dobby, do you think the people want to hear more stuff about CBs? Do you think they would want to know the really boring stuff? Should we tell them math? There are equations. Do you think they would want to hear about equations? Should we walk them through it? Do you think they would like to be walked through? Do you think they would want to walk through it? No? No walk? You think that you do? Okay. Let's walk them through it. We'll walk them through all of the boring stuff, all of the stuff that only John from Throw 2 Bits to Your Tech Guy would be interested in, okay? And maybe not the math, but the boring stuff. Okay, let's do it.